5. There's no way anybody can get into that room without triggering one of the other alarms off first. So the only thing I could think of was that perhaps a rat or something had got in and nibbled the wires. So very bravely I walked in, running my hands down the wires, hoping to feel for a rat bite, you know, a break in the wire where the rats had nibbled it. And I just happened to see on the opposite side of the room, all I can describe it as is a greenish, smoky haze. I really don't even know if it had legs at the time because I wasn't there very long. I hit about 2 stairs on the way out. It terrified me. I got home, went into bed. My wife saying, what's going on? You know, I said, oh, nothing, fine. You know. But it did take me a couple of days to actually go back into that part of the room. Now, since then, I've seen that on several occasions. It still makes me uneasy. Not always in that room, sometimes in other parts of the hall, even once in my Victorian flat. I don't know what it is. I speak to it now. I think it may be Isabella, who knows. I actually say to it, okay, Isabella, it's only me, it's only John, you've triggered the alarm, your baby's fine, and then I'll leave. She hasn't answered me back yet. I'm not really sure whether I want her to or not, but I'm not the only person to see it, which helps my sanity, I think.
For our next tale, we've come here to the quiet of Anfield Cemetery in a search for the incredible. Over there in a quiet corner is the grave of James Maybrick, whose wife Florence was convicted and imprisoned for his murder over 100 years ago. As if the controversy of the murder and the double standards of the trial were not enough, nothing could prepare us for the sensational twist in the story of James Maybrick. Last year, a Liverpool man, Mike Barrett, made a journey from here, Liverpool Lime Street, to London. A journey that James Maybrick must have made many, many times. Barrett was on his way to London to meet a publisher to talk about a book. But no ordinary book. It was a diary. The diary of a Liverpool cotton merchant, James Maybrick. The diary was written in 1888, a year before Maybrick's death. But even more incredible, the diary contained a confession. A confession that James Maybrick was in fact Jack the Ripper. London's East End, Whitechapel, with its pitiful run-down appearance, slums teeming with thugs, thieves and prostitutes. It was here, during the summer of 1888, that 5 prostitutes were cruelly and viciously murdered by the infamous Jack the Ripper. What possible connection do these terrible murders have with James Maybrick? His diary, however, gives us the chilling answer. The majority of Ripper experts who have examined the diary, and while they themselves have chosen different suspects, none can prove it is a complete fake. Last year, 2 Liverpool brothers came forward with a small gold pocket watch on which was inscribed the name J. Maybrick. And round that name was scratched a series of initials which conformed exactly to the 5 Ripper victims' names. Even more frighteningly was added the statement scratched on the surface: I am Jack. An eminent metallurgist has looked at the watch and the gold, and he's verified that it comes from the period about the time James Maybrick was alive. Maybrick's ancestors were natives of the East End. In fact, it is suggested that Maybrick had a mistress there, so it is extremely likely that he had first-hand knowledge of the whole area. This is the Post House in Cumberland Street, a warm, friendly, traditional pub in the heart of Liverpool, where, according to Maybrick's diaries, at this very table, he first decided to kill. But these dreadful crimes would not be committed here in Liverpool, but in London, where he travelled frequently. By now, Maybrick was a chronic hypochondriac. There wasn't a malady, not a sickness from which he did not suffer. He was taking increasing doses of arsenic and a wide range of other drugs to help keep him feeling and looking young. A pretty wife who liked to flirt, 25 years his junior. How was he to impress her? How was he to keep her? Jealous of Alfred Brierly's relationship with Florence, his jealousy turned to hatred, and his hatred finally to murder. But not Florence. No, not Florence. But women like her. Women who, Maybrick liked to think, used men. Yes, they would be the ones to suffer. They would be the ones to pay the price with their lives. In August 1888, James Maybrick went to London. But instead of staying with his brother Michael, he rented a room in Whitechapel. Time and time again, the police commented on how the Ripper must have had a hideaway somewhere in the vicinity, allowing him to move about freely through the squalid neighborhood. Near 3 of the 5 murder sites, the letter M was identified. M for Maybrick? Or just another cruel clue in this game of deception the Ripper was playing with the Whitechapel police? This is James Maybrick's grave, as it was then and as it is today. The cross on the top is missing. Could be a mindless act of vandalism, or it could be something more significant. Either way, these are the facts. Make of them what you will. All I can tell you is, standing here by his grave does make you wonder whether there shouldn't be 2 names inscribed here, not just one. For our next tale, I want you to join me on a journey. It'll only take a few miles, but it'll take us to an era which heralded the dawn of the railway and the steam train. This is Edge Hill, the place where Joseph Williamson chose to perform and execute one of his most extraordinary follies. Williamson was born in about 1780, and at the age of 11, he left home to seek his fame and fortune here in Liverpool, a city then that was a thriving port. He tried to find work in a tobacco factory run by Thomas Moore Tate. He was taken on. He rose through the ranks. He was trusted. So trusted, in fact, that he married the boss's daughter, Elizabeth. And when Thomas Moore Tate himself retired, Williamson took over the business and went on to amass a considerable fortune. But it was only when Williamson himself retired that the full extent of his eccentricities manifested themselves in his peculiar desire to borrow. This long derelict garage in the centre of Liverpool holds the key to the truth about the Edge Hill Mow, for it was on this very site that Williamson's mansion once stood. And you can still see the sandstone that went to make up the perimeter of his vast estate. The sandstone of old mixing now with the breeze block and the tarmac of today. For beneath this very concrete floor lies the entrance to the myriad of tunnels which Williamson and his builders started digging in the early 19th century, and they didn't stop digging for 26 years. What we're going to find when we go down there, I'm not quite sure, because every descent brings more discoveries of new branches of tunnels. So let's talk to the man who first discovered the tunnels, Gabriel Mules, who is determined to continue the legacy of Williamson right into the 21st century. Gabriel.
Oh, how do you do?
Nice to meet you. What was the first reaction when you walked underneath here?
Oh, well, I was terrified. I can assure you. I was a bit, you know, airy, scary sort of thing, you know, because, we're going into unknown territory, you know. And as I say, when I seen the size of some of them, you know, I was a bit frightened. You know, I didn't know what was going to be down there, one thing and another. And then, you know, I realised, you know, what a piecing everything together. I said, this is part of his, underworld kingdom. It's not just under his house, it goes for miles.
It wasn't just tunnels, was it? It was whole rooms.
Oh, yes, I mean, there was that, where we're going to go now is, we're actually going to go into a banqueting hall underground.
Well, here we go.
But it's dry.
Yes, it is.
It's so dry.
Amazing, isn't it? We're so far below ground.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very tight here, Peter.
Right.
Williamson gave work to the soldiers returning from the Napoleonic Wars to certain unemployment. It was while finding work for the men to do that Williamson began to instruct his men to dig.
How about there, Peter? Bit of a tight squeeze. Amazing here, we're coming into another large chamber.
So, Gabriel, where are we now?
Well, this is what's known as the banqueting hall, what he had underground.
Right. And what are these holes here? Because we're at the top now, aren't we?
That's
Going
right,
down.
yeah.
So what are these?
Well,
we're at the ceiling. What are those?
They're the method they used of putting the scaffolding up, so the men could stand up and do the arch.
Oh, to this fantastic ceiling.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, you can see the brickwork there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is solid rock they went.
Oh, yeah, this is all virgin rock, as you can see all the chisel marks.
Oh.
There we go, Peter. Well, we're down on a bit of level anyway. You all right?
Gabriel, this place is just incredible, isn't it?
Well, actually, there's a lovely story to this,
Right.
Peter, about the banqueting hall.
Yeah.
Going back in the 1820s, he invited all these influential friends, his shipping merchants and etc., to an evening meal. And on the tables, all there was jugs of water and dry bread. And I said, man must be mad. He's expecting us to sit down to that. So they all went, except a few. A few remained behind and who were prepared to sit down and eat the meal with him. Now, when all these so-called friends went, he said to his real friends, he said, now that I know who my real friends are, I will take you now to a meal what you've never ever seen before.
Right, Gabriel, we've weaved our way through a lot of tunnels to here, but how far is it, really?
Oh, we're a good distance away from the banqueting hall.
That's right, yeah.
But
So where are we now?
We're in what was known as his living room.